So, hello, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, welcome to our show today. And today we have a very special lady here with us, whose firm right now has gone through a massive PR search. And first of all, the leading provider of the modern SaaS solution that solves multiple complex business problems for the companies of all sizes. Freshworks has left the world in awe. Because of its brilliant marketing strategies, today we are privileged to have a conversation with the marketing genius behind all of this, Sindhya Balasingh. First of all, welcome here, ma'am.
Thank
Cyn-
you.
Sindhya is a very passionate technology marketer who's a rich experience in partner marketing and currently heading the global technology partnerships marketing in Freshworks. Under her leadership, the ISU marketing team has emerged as one of the upcoming revenue engines of Freshworks. Prior joining Freshworks, she was the head of marketing at Redington India Limited, dealing with all the ID product lines. She's been recognized as the top 20 women catalyst in the Indian IT ecosystem by SME Channels. Recently, she got the Women Super Achiever Award from the World Women Leadership Organization and also an active speaker for a lot of podcasts, events, and industry interviews. As far as education qualification goes, she has a bachelor's degree in BTech IT and an MBA in marketing and operations specialization. In her free time, she loves listening to A.R. Rahman songs, reading Tamil classics, and writing Tamil poetries. And she has been fortunate enough to visit more than 30 countries around the world. Please tell me if I'm missing something out here.
No, you are absolutely bang on.
Because your journey has been, I think it's a journey of a lifetime. I'm so surprised and shocked that what you have achieved in such a span of your career. And it'll be really interesting to get to know you better.
My privilege and pleasure.
So first of all, welcome to the show. Before I begin questioning you and we get into this conversation, just give me a little bit brief background about where you started and where you are right now. Just to
Uh,
give me a
you
background.
almost, touch based all the capsule of whatever I have gone through in the last 11 plus years. Maybe like little bit to go back. I have to say, like anybody in India, right? You want to be either a doctor or engineer, the same thing. I wanted to be a doctor. So it started like that. But eventually, due to some personal reasons and all, I was not able to become a doctor. So obviously, the alternative choice was engineering. So when I went to engineering, I understood very clearly that coding or sitting with the laptop is not the kind of job I wanted to do. I wanted to deal with people. So a lot of people advised me to take up MBA. So I MBA also everybody was advising me to go for HR or finance, but somewhat I had a hunch or instinct, I should say, because I was not knowing about marketing much. And you all know, right, and way back 12, 13 years back, and people will be thinking for women marketing or sales may not be the right pitch. So a lot of people advised me to take HR, but somewhat my heart said that I will enjoy marketing. So I went ahead and pursued marketing and operations. I was very clear that I wanted to go in a field marketing role. I don't want to go for business analyst or any such sorts. So I waited. Then the Blue Star happened in the campus interview, and the dream job I was waiting for came into light. So that's how I picked up the marketing journey. From there, it's one hell of a run, I should say, in marketing across Reddington, Freshworks. And maybe I have changed the industry, but not changed my core domain as a marketing. So in this mean interim, I have picked up interest in partnerships and alliances because, as I told you, I'm a relationship and people person. So I started going further niche and started being in partner marketing for last 7, 8 years, at least 8 years, 8 plus years in partner marketing, I should say.
That is so wonderful to hear, and I'm even more encouraged to hear the entire story. To all our audiences out there, the conversation today will revolve around her career path, women in tech, and different marketing strategies in the modern world, and how upcoming new models are helping to make the prospect and customer experience and delight. So, without further ado, let me just start by putting my questions across the table so that you can put your opinions there. So my first question to you, Sandhya, is that what was the first thing that sparked your interest in working in the tech industry, first of all?
So, as I told you earlier, even to become a doctor, it's because like I wanted to help people. So I always feel that, if I could do something to ease or bring in convenience to people life, that is something I always wanted to do. So when the technology began, when the smartphones started, I used to wonder like, oh, in a fingertip, a lot of things can be done. But people were not so aware, and they used to feel that it's not secure, or people were not changing the pattern. But if they change the pattern, I know if they embrace the technology, the life will be better. So there maybe my trigger to become a tech marketer started then and there. Maybe I may not know the meaning of tech marketer by that time, but I was always thinking that maybe a lot of technologies are coming and people are not communicating it right and not taking it to the people in the way for the consuming. So I always wanted to do something to communicate that to people. So that's how I wanted to shift from Blue Star to Reddington. I thought, okay, going to Reddington, my path towards tech industry will start. And it's a hub for various tech products and solutions. I thought, okay, there maybe I'll learn how Cisco's of the world, IBM's of the world, HP's of the world are communicating to their customer and bringing their mind into the new technology, how the whole journey is starting. That's how my idea of being a tech marketer sparked, I should say.
That's very interesting to hear because I think I am where exactly you were a couple of years back because I am also starting that journey. And with that being said, I think I'll really be interested to know that how much do you think the tech industry has changed since you joined versus what it is today? Because out of everybody, I think it will be very much, and I'll be the first person to take out a lot of bits and chunks out of that knowledge.
So one big change I'm seeing is capex to opex.
Yeah.
So when I started, it's all about people will buy an infrastructure and put the asset in their book. But now nobody wants to own an asset. Even you forget about even technology. A lot of people are just moving home and all the furnitures are rented, right? Even I have amazed seeing that blankets, carpets, and all our people are renting and using it. So it has become like subscription model has grown significantly. I have to call out. People find convenience in that. If they are not liking it, they can discontinue and switch to others. If you're buying something, you'll be stuck with it for forever. So that's one biggest change I'm seeing from where I started to today. And the second change I'm seeing is modus of communication. And so once digital marketing is a big thing, so now it's no more a big thing, right? It's a norm. So people want to be communicated in the digital media because they are living with that. It became a basic need instead of a luxury. Once the digital transactions or some convenience services or like luxury for people, now it's common. So when Swiggy or Uber or Ola came to India, people were saying this market will not embrace that. We are not that type of crowd. But if you see, we are the biggest market for those convenience technology. So anything today, Swiggy, you take Swiggy Instamart, Uber, Ola, BB Daily, Dunzo. So anything to do with convenience, people are embracing the technology irrespective of their age. So my father is much more tech savvy than me. So when we started, no, he was not like that. But now I could see a lot of difference, and he tells a lot of things to me. Why are you doing like this? That is easy. No, why don't you pick up from that? Why don't you ask Danzo? Why are you troubling others? So people started seeing technology as a ease of use. They are not seeing it complex anymore. So the business who are able to provide a simple solution to the customer needs are leaders today. Gone are those days that you should talk in a complex language, multiple jargons, you need to be complex, then only people will see you as a tech savvy. Now, no more. You need to be easy to use or easy to communicate, and you have to be convenient to use. So that is the biggest trend change I'm seeing from the technology where I started to here.
I think you're absolutely right when you said the difference between people adopting to a OPEX model and coming back from the CAPEX model, because I think that presented as the bedrock of cloud technology, what it is today, right? Because a lot of people just want to plug and play and integrate and scale their business. I mean, hyperscale their business just by from the day one. And the entire procurement process of getting through that, the entire CAPEX process was such a big, it was a very big entry gateway. I think that is something that has changed in the recent time. And I think that has also created another bedrock for SaaS technologies nowadays. That means that you do not have to invest upfront and you can actually scale your business. That is how the lot of businesses are running on a bootstrap model today. And I think that is the predominantly the major enabler in that market. So that being said, what do you think what do you think about the few impactful strategies that will help a SaaS org buyer intent to grow?
See, one thing today, your question has the answer. For instance, today SaaS is very easy to use. People are well informed. In for anything, people can go to Google and see all the information they can consume. So you going and telling like what your product can solve, its features, USPs, nobody is having time to listen to it. So that's the main problem. Like you cannot go and only speak about your company or what you are doing. So the biggest strategy today, you must be hearing it, or abuse term is thought leadership. So everybody says thought leadership. So why are you doing that? That is one important strategy. Why it is an important strategy? Because today, if I am consuming a content, somebody is watching this interview, they really don't want to know what TechJock is doing, Freshworks is doing, right? They wanted to see what information they are having, what information they can carry or understand and use it and apply it in their day-to-day life. So if your target audience is a customer support head or a sales head, so you need to talk to him on his language, what he is struggling with, how he can surpass the industry, what is the industry trends, what is his customers are expecting. So the survey he is not able to conduct, if you are conducting and giving him some insights, what his fellow peers are saying, industry experts are saying, they are interested to know that. They are not interested to know like what a CRM can solve a problem for you. That is not their problem now. The current problem for them is how to increase ROI. If a salesperson, okay, how will I build pipeline, how will I integrate my team's goal and grow. So you have to talk in that language, and first you need to devise your marketing strategies and framework around that first. So there comes the thought leadership. So the moment you go in a thought leadership way, the second strategy is an follow up of the first strategy. So you will end up having so many leads. So if you're publishing a Gartner report or a Harvard Business Report or a white paper with someone, so many people will download. If you think all of them are your prospects and forwarding it to your sales guy, that's where you're making the first mistake, right? So the moment your sales guys goes and asks like, hey, you downloaded a white paper, do you want my solution? The prospect is not going to have a good experience, and you're going to have unsubscription, and sales guys will get frustrated, so they will follow first 100 leads, all 100 leads are waste, they will say, and they will lose interest in pursuing the further leads. Maybe a hot lead is residing somewhere inside, which they will not have interest or time to follow up, and you don't know how to segregate that. There comes the second strategy, the reason to go for or identifying a high intent lead. So you will get a lot of leads and contacts in the various activities you do. So you need to score the leads based on the intent, fitment, and engagement. So if you're having somebody is engaging on your content, how many times? Is it a one-off time? Are they spending time in your website also? Are they attended any other events of yours? Or this is the first time? Based on some score will be assigned on that. And then fitment, a lot of people could have just downloaded for educational purpose, or it could have been in the same company if so many people are downloading, then maybe something is there. Or the person who's your decision maker or in your field whom you intend to reach out, are they the one who downloaded? That is fitment. And then intent, are they filling any form, either asking for a demo, or it can be simply giving their details. That means they have some intent to engage with you. So the combination of three forms the lead scoring. So you have to score those leads. Once you score those leads, then the second strategy should happen. Then further, maybe like what is the next thing? That is the third strategy I would call. You cannot go and again sell product to them. You need to go and pitch the solution. So it has to be solution, not more, no more product pitch will work. So you have to become a consultant. Already they started believing you as a thought leader. Now you have to go and tell them, hey, I am a consultant for you, or I am a doctor who's going to diagnose your business problem and prescribe you with the right solution, which will help you to grow in your business. That trust they should get. That kind of, first you need to help them identify the problem. Gone are those days, customer will say, hey, I have this problem, I'm looking for a solution. First you need to make them aware that you have a problem, and then you need to go and pitch your solution to them. Then your chances of converting them into customer or your prospect or retaining them, all that becomes easy. So the three impactful strategies in a summary: establish yourself as a thought leader or a consultant, and then identify high intent leads, and play your pitch in solution, not in product.
I can't even tell you how relatable this conversation or the last answer was to me, because that is exactly what I've been also going through in the last couple of years. And it is majorly because of the fact that digital marketing as a terminology has become more of a demand generation activity than actually a subset of marketing.
Correct.
Because as a terminology, it has had a lot of meanings in the past, and that is the reason why people only focus on inquiries and leads. Like everybody who's clicked on your form, they're bound to why aren't they purchasing my product? That's the biggest question that the sales team has for any what do you call it, digital marketing guy, right?
Correct.
But they must be very interested in the product if they've actually downloaded the ebook or the white paper or something like that. What we lack today is humanizing the entire funnel.
Correct.
Tell me if I'm wrong anywhere, because
No, no, you're
this is
right.
exactly why digital marketing is now headed in a direction that we are splitting it across. That okay, this is your performance part of things, which you can actually in some bit call it as a DG activity, but there has to be some human element attached to the growth part of it, right?
Correct.
So that is why I jump to my next question. Why do you think growth marketing over digital marketing?
So it's an interesting and my one of my favorite question. So see, when you ask for technology evolution, right? I would say again a digital marketing evolution. Earlier, if you have a right technology, that is enough. Right technology, you market in digital media, you're all done. So no more like that. Then it had like you have to have a great product along with the technology. Now it is like great product technology, but the distribution plus the distribution strategy in the channels. So in digital marketing today, the problem is channel efficiency, channel constraints. Your channels are cluttered and it's soon entering into the maturity stage. So your every channel, they take Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever you're going through. So they are soon reaching their maturity cycle and the declination start. So what happens? Your cost of acquiring customers are going up. In the last 5 years, there is 60% of the cost of digital marketing has gone up because of this channel constraint. So there, the content marketing becomes expensive then. So it is not right for you to concentrate only on one channel that is, or one marketing technique called digital marketing. You need to be a growth marketer. You cannot be a digital marketer or a branding marketer or so on. You have to be a growth marketer. The growth marketing starts from identifying your prospect base to acquiring a contact to converting them with BOFU content, convert BOFU or any strategy, converting them to I will not even say a deal. First, an appointment setting process that they are willing to talk to someone, and then to a deal, to a customer, and they don't stop there. Then customer advocacy, cross selling, upselling, the whole cycle has to be taken care. That's where the growth marketing comes. Here, it is not measured in terms of leads, MQLs, SQLs. It is all about pipeline, how you are growing. And it is not about funnel approach anymore. Growth marketing is not following that funnel approach. It is not like awareness creation. You will have the typical marketing funnel, right? Awareness, consideration set, conversion. All those are gone. Now you are into a world of loops. So you have to find your growth loop. So your output should be again going as an input and it should multiply output, input, output, input. It should be a growth. So it has to be a habit loop which you need to build with your prospect or customer. And they should get habituated in using your product or using your content or using your communication channel. You need to get them habituated. So that habit loops are the ones who is going to help you in more and more acquisition loops. So habit loops and acquisition loops are to be built and cracked for your company to grow. So grow at any cost is growth marketing mantra. And it's not like small short-term growth hacks, rather than finding a right input output loop for you to grow further. So in short, they will say for growing, like if you are growing, what will happen? More data will come. When more data comes, you will have more learnings. You can do more experimentation. And again, it will become a loop and you can pilot and scale, pilot and scale, pilot and scale. So once you scale, another subpart of another learning will come out. And again, another pilot will go. So this kind of looping effect and the growth will only help you to survive in this competitive world. And only digital marketing is no longer going to help any organization to scale.
I think you're absolutely right because in a very traditional way, people believe that one size might fit all, and they
Correct.
just keep on reading these case studies. They keep on reading what has worked for others, and they try to implement the exact same thing for their organization. What
Exactly.
we need in digital or growth today is always a custom approach. It is always a mesh of different touch points, different kind of audiences, different USPs, and the conversation that you build on them. That one size can never fit all. It has
Correct.
always to be hyper personalized getting to the market. That being said, I've seen just as you what you mentioned about thought leadership being one of the top of the funnel first touch point element. There's another thing which is what you're going to catching a lot of attention in the market today. Those are called technology partnerships, right, or
Correct.
partner market programs, right? And I've seen a lot of organizations building these GTMs together and building these events or assets together to go to the market and present an integrated solution. So, what do you think? How a SaaS organization can benefit from those kind of models?
See, again, like in a competitive world, in SaaS industry, that too, there is no entry of barrier. You can see lot of SaaS companies booming every day, and there'll be so many startups you will look around. There are so much of free tools available in the market. It's even tough to convert a free customer to a paid customer nowadays. So there's so many options. It's impossible for you to build a monolithic solution for your customer, and you cannot produce everything, all product features for your company or your customers fit. That's impossible. So here is only you have to set your product team and identify the roadmap of your product. Okay, these are my core features where I will be specialized on, and these are the partners I wanted to go behind to form or to fit or to fill my product gaps and form an integration. Instance, I'll take a Freshworks example. So we are strong in help desk, but I have an option to build a collaboration tool on my own and again market it, find its market, and get restart from all over again. Or I could go and partner with someone called Slack, who's well accepted in the market as a collaboration tool. When we go together as a solution, definitely their ecosystem and our ecosystem, more growth we both will have. So this way, you are delighting your customer. You are not forcing them to say. My favorite example, I would have told this 100 times in many podcasts. So I always once when I in the morning when I get up and say, Alexa, tell my schedule. If Alexa gives my Google Calendar schedules, I'll be more than happy. But Alexa don't do that. Alexa will only do if I'm using Alexa Calendar, right? So that is, you are not giving the customer choice or preference. I may want to use Alexa over Google Assistant, and I may want to use Google Calendar over Alexa Calendar. What's wrong in that? I want both the product to be integrated, and I want my data to seamlessly flow, and I want it to be convenient. So that is where the tech partnerships concept grows. So for customer, it's convenience, and for them, the business processes also get tightly integrated. So today, churning is an important problem in any SaaS organization. The cost of acquiring customer itself will be very high, but when you go after 2 3 months, if they get churned out, whole effort you need to repeat, and it is a big loss. So there is a study which says even if you have a 10% improvement in your customer retainability, 80% of your profit will grow. So that's the heavy battle every SaaS organization is going through today. But when there is a study says that if your customer is adapting more than one app, the chances of them getting churned is reduced by 50%. If your customer is adapting more than two apps, the chances of them getting churned out is reduced by 75%. This is because you're tightly integrating their business problem. So for them also, cost of switching goes higher. So it's very important to have tech partnerships to increase customer retention. It don't stop there. It also helps in acquiring customer at a very low cost. Just in your previous discussion, we were talking, right? 40%, 40 to 60% of the digital marketing cost goes up today. And the marketing has become tough. Today, the content marketing is flooded everywhere, and you have so much of content to consume, and it's very difficult to break the clutter. So, how tech partnerships is going to help? So, tech partnerships will help when two giants, you imagine a Freshworks conducting an event or a webinar or a white paper, or in combination of SurveyMonkey, Slack, Shopify, if you're doing something, or if you're doing something for e-commerce along with Shopify, PayPal, Amazon, Freshworks, together we are doing something. That's why they wanted to come, right? Customers wanted to hear us in that way. They wanted to hear more or learn more. So the content engagement and your performance of the campaign will automatically go up. And the second thing is, I need not spend 100 rupees for this campaign. I'm collaborating with four partners. So 25 rupees each one of us will spend. So automatically my cost is getting shared, my resources getting shared, but by prospects and leads are getting doubled because their customers are my prospect, my customers are their prospect, and we both have joint prospects. So alone going, always we say, right, two is always better than one. So here, as much of tech partnerships and the right product fit you are having, your marketing cost is also going to come down. Your CPL will come down, your cost of acquisition of customer will come down, your customer retention will go up, and your product and customer experience will also be more delighted. So in this way, tech partnerships is an integral partner, a part of the any SaaS organization's strategies. You cannot do away with it.
And following up to the same conversation, what key criteria do you look out for in terms of building these technology partnerships? Because when you're going to the market together and presenting something an asset together to the market, it is imperative that you follow the same vision or the strategy, or you have the same what do you call it output figured out that this is what we're going to achieve, right? So, what are the key criteria that you look out for in these technology partnerships?
So one main thing is first product gap should be fit. Your customer should be wanting this integration. It should solve a problem of your customer, and it has to have a right product fit. So this is the key criteria. And then both of you need to have a common target personas. So if I am going after a customer success head and somebody else is going after a HR head, it don't make sense, right?
Yes.
So we both need a common target persona base. So that is the second key criteria which we need to look for. And third is sometimes you like Europe, say take Latin America, take certain Asian countries. You need to be strong in local languages. So there are certain partners, maybe like say 55 PBX or someone who may be like strong in that local language, which I may not have. So me going and integrating with them, take Unbearable translation apps. So these kind of apps also help me to go closer to the market. So that is the third criteria which we look for.
It's some wonderful insights. And I think taking my question a little bit deeper towards your career and your journey from heavy tech, the discussion that we were having, what advice would you give to the women entering the tech field today?
Um, See, first and foremost, there are so many stereotypes or the mind blocks you will come across when you have to cross a leadership journey or a career journey for yourself. So, women entering in tech, there is a stereotype that you will not be able to do work-life balance, or you have to be on the call all the time, or when you are entering into the tech field, people may call you as a person who are self-centered or who are not thinking of the family. So those kind of barriers and stereotypes you will come across. So first and foremost, you have to first define that is this what you want? Is it your passion? If it says it's your passion, and anybody, there is a will, there is a way. You will find a way. Today, You see the work from home conditions earlier was not at all possible. Today it made evident to people that it's possible, and you can everybody can take care of home as well as office, and still they are balancing, right? So things are changing. So if you are able to do, companies are listening to you. You can define your work times, you can define your strategy of fulfilling both family and work. So people are hearing you now. Just speak up. That's what I'll say. Just say what you want and you will get it. And you have to constantly update yourself. It's not like okay, I have acquired X number of YZ certifications and I'm good to go in the tech field. Certifications are a basic, like a school degree or college degree nowadays, but in real life you need to acquire the practical knowledge. So go and work, start somewhere. Don't wait for the perfect opportunity. Start somewhere, maybe start in a small company, earn the tech experience, understand what your customer wants, keep building the skill. The experience matters. The more the experience, the better the person you will be in tech field. And be expressive and ask for everything. One yesterday I was talking to someone, so he was telling me that Cynthia, your leaders podcast actually opened my eye. He was a male, so he was telling me that I was able to understand my female colleagues better. So I was asking many people to come to office because now vaccinations are done, come back to office. And I forgot the fact that a lot of women who are working in night shifts are comfortable now at home so that they can feed their kids if they are having new infants and all. Now I'm able to see that. So I was asking one of my new mother that you are interested to coming back to work. She said that given a choice, I want to be at home because I want to feed my kid. Then I asked her, why are you not asking? Why are you not opening up? You should have told me. How will I know? So a guy cannot ask like, do you want to feed your kid or come to office? So it's like you have to take that liberty. You have to go and say, hey, you want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 outputs from me. That will be done. I wanted this. So allow me to do in this way and you will get your results. Now companies are changing and cultures are changing. People are seeing the results, not like the way you are doing it. So the biggest thing or biggest advice for women I would give is ask, speak up, and express yourself. And definitely you can shine in tech world because we are the multitaskers by birth.
That is absolutely right. And I think everybody today can vouch for that.
Yeah.
Also, additionally, few minutes back, you said that today certifications are just like college degrees, right? You'll get a lot of theoretical knowledge out of them, but actually implementing them in realistic situations and practical life, it's a little tad bit different,
Correct.
right? With your experience in taking fresh work from where it was to where it is today, and developing a lot of go-to-marketing strategy, as well as being an industry veteran, what please can you please share some key suggestions for the marketers today, how they can develop those key practical skill sets, and how should they turn them into realistic strategies for their SaaS orgs?
See, for this first, there is no framework or there can be frameworks, but there is no like ready-made solution available. So what you have to do is you have to talk more with the peers. So it's important to engage in community building. So today, one thing we are lagging is we are not talking. So I have no problem in asking like, hey, I have this problem. Anybody, have you anyone done this? Can you share your experience with us? People are coming and sharing their experiences. There are a lot of forums, there are a lot of community. Even I'm being I'm a member of Reforge community. So we chat, we talk about business problems, we help each other, we learn from each other, we work on live cases, live business problems, solution. So that kind of things will help you. So even one thing what you can, what I always ask my mentor to do or my mentees to do is whatever happened already, maybe I'll give a problem where there is already it's been solved so that they are not under a tremendous pressure of solving now. But I'll ask them to apply their fresh perspective and come up with a solution. And we will say, okay, you have come up with this solution, but we have taken this solution. Why you think this is better than this or this is better than that? So we used to give them that practical feeling. So you have to take that extra effort to go and solve certain problem. Okay, just go and see, like Swiggy launched a campaign, Zomato launched a campaign, or HubSpot launched a campaign. Let's take any campaigns. Just think, if you are at that position, what will you do? What is a good thing about it? What can be done better? and connect up with someone there and ask them. LinkedIn is now there for everything. Ask them. Nobody will say no. They will say like, hey, I had this idea, but you have done like this. Why you think that this is better than that, or this is better than that? I just wanted to know. Yeah, I'm an upcoming marketer. I'm trying this, but I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I know you have done this already. Can you pass on some learnings, which hard knows at least? I even don't want best practices, but I wanted to know like something no, 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 so that I need not do that mistake again. So just go and talk to people, ask everything. I'll ask the same thing. Just ask, keep your eyes and ears open, read as much as possible. Analyze the campaigns, which is campaigns you like or not like, not liking it. Why? If you're saying that, hey, what campaign is that? I'm not liking what they have done. Okay, then don't say like that. Then immediately tell, okay, if I am there, I would have done like this. Maybe they should have done like this. It would have been better. So that thinking skill will get better. That problem solving skill will get better. Also, you also go and tell your peers, hey, this is what I have done and it worked. And why don't you guys also try this and let me know how it is working for you? Just share your knowledge as much as, get feedback as much as, learn from peers as much as, build the community as much as. Definitely, the skill set will automatically come.
I think I'm going to take a lot of intelligence from this conversation and I'm going to implement this right away because I think a lot of what you said is actually at the back of every marketer's mind, but there's never been an opportunity to go out and actually take that feedback from peers, right? Because I don't see any kind of very conjoined marketers community where they speak to each other very freely, jointly discovering strategies, passing on that information and that knowledge. So I think that is something. It'll be very interesting to have something like that. So, Sandhya, do you think that women can bring a lot of additional skills to enrich the software industry? And what advice would you give to these women entering the tech fields? Because I see that there are a lot of barriers for entry for women in this field today.
It's not only in this field. Generally, women today carrying a lot of barriers from the childhood. So the first and foremost barrier is family. So in family, it is conditioned in a way that girl child will play with doll, guys will play with car. So people comes also, no, they will buy teddy bears or soft toys to a girl, and they will bring train, car, bus to guys. So you will see this. So it's been conditioned in that way. Girl has to take care of a doll. You have to deck the doll. You have to take care of that. They have to cook. They will have small cooking kits. You have to do that. And guy means they will be a pilot. They will be flying the stick. Unfortunately, this has become a norm, or subconsciously it is coming out like that. So their first and foremost barrier, not only a girl, and everyone in the family has to break us. Everybody has their choice. A guy can become a great chef. A woman can become a great pilot. It's purely depending upon their interest. What they like, you cannot condition them. And women means you cannot sit like this. Don't put cross legs, or don't sit in front of guys and talk. You should stand. All those, first of all, those things are only not helping them to mold them better. So you're already being preconditioned. First, if certain families are supportive and you don't have that also, if you're able to break that clutter and come out, the biggest barrier waits outside is societal barrier. So even in my own case, whenever I travel, people will say, how are you leaving your small kid and traveling? Not good, dear. Please spend some time with your family. My husband don't ask, my parents don't ask, my kid even don't ask. But neighbors will be so concerned. Colleagues will be so concerned. They will be saying, oh, Sandhya, you should not be so self-centered. You should not be so professional driven. And tomorrow when you look back, the family will not be there. So I wanted to ask, okay, you're right. Maybe too much on a work and not taking care of family is not good for anybody. It's not only for girl or a guy. And it's not necessarily that only you should feel bad when a girl is traveling, right? So that is a second societal barrier you have. If you cross that and come till, you have work barrier also. So I have come across my career in a lot of traditional companies, where when you go and voice out your opinion, they will not even pretend that you are existing in that meeting, because they will feel that, what you know, I know better. That language, that dominance, that body language itself, I have personally seen lot of women dropping their career ball then and there. They feel that, okay, once I go to maternity, when I come back, people are thinking that I'm not capable enough. This I have seen. People have asked me, you have gone to maternity and come back. Do you still wanted to pursue as a marketing head? How can you now travel? It's my problem, right? So that work culture problem is there. So these are the three barriers a woman has to cross to first of all come to work and sustain and then to become a leader. So all this can be actually broken if you have a strong mindset. If you think you can do it, if you think you want it, you will find a way for it. And I'll always say, if people love you when they are surrounded by you, they will understand what they want. They will support for you. Just express. Don't think that women need to be a giver, women need to be like in serial. I think that web series and serial are killing people's mindset. No, there people will be like, women will be like, even a person who is going for an IPS officer, that girl gets married, then she will give up her career, she will cook for her husband, take care of the kid. That female is the best female in the world. And those who is doing a business, she is not a best female, right? This is how it get depicted. So first of all, that stereotyping has to be broken, and you can take care of your family. Believe in yourself, have some self love, take care of yourself, be happy, and do whatever you wanted to do. People around you will be automatically happy, and you will make a happy family and a happy career and a happy life. So just don't think about anyone. Just go for a self love, and just do what you love to see yourself to be. That is the one advice I will give for women in career on the overall. And women in tech, you have to constantly update yourself, and you have a flexibility now. This pandemic, one thing has done better is in work from home. You can opt to be in work from home, you can do hybrid situation, you can take your flexi work hours. So until as long as you are result oriented and you can deliver the results you want, people are now no more concerned like how are you doing 9 to 5 this job, 6 to 10 the job, or night you're doing the job. Nobody is concerned. So just be open, embrace the environmental changes, adapt to the newer technologies which is coming, and learn that skills and get your soft and hard skills up. Automatically your family will come and support, and learn to use that support system well, and get into the mindset of not only working in tech, get into a mindset that you have to be leader in that space, and you have to grow in that space, and you have that all there. You just go need to go and conquer it.
I know while you were speaking about all of this, you were predominantly directing it towards the women in tech, but I think I am more pumped up and energetic after this conversation. And like seriously, golden words said, and I couldn't agree more. And with that, I think I'll close this interview at this very hearty note, or very encouraging note towards all our audiences. So thanks a lot, Miss Cynthia Balasingh, and thank you for taking out some precious time for us here at Tech Jockey. And I know this partnership of Freshwork and Tech Jockey goes long back. Looking out for more conversations like this, where you can address our audiences in other topics that are what do you call it, being built up in the market today.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. And it was pleasure interacting with you. And I'm a fan of Tech Jockey because way back when I go back to Reddington, that when Tech Jockey got launched, I was like, wow, what is this new platform coming up? And you guys were pretty visionaries, and you started pretty early, I should say. And I in fact met one of your leadership team member in Australia, and we had long conversation on how to have Reddington and Tech Jockey partnerships to scale. And I'm happy that the legacy continues even in Freshworks, and wishing you and your team very all the best. And I'm sure you guys will do great. And thank you for this opportunity once again.
Thanks a lot.